A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome to the show Reflections, where we discuss a particular verse or hadith from the Aimma alayhi salam, and we look into the particular relevance and significance to our daily lives and society as well. Today we'll be discussing verse number 6 from Surah Hujurat, which says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyanu an tusibu qawman bijahalatin fatusbihu ala ma fa'altum nadimin. Sadaqallahu aliyyun azim. The English translation of this verse says, O you who believe, if an evildoer comes to you with a report, look carefully into it, lest you harm a people in ignorance. Then be sorry for what you have done. Today with us, we have the great honor and pleasure to have Dr. Alidina to discuss and reflect on this verse. Dr. Alidina, welcome to the show. Assalamu alaikum.
Ahsantum wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
It is so common in our lives that we are approached by a person or an agency that brings us the news of the affairs of an individual or a group of people or a family that is just not true, but we just accept it so easily because of our human tendency just to take things for granted many a times, not look into the source of things, only to find that we come across a situation where a person or a society or a family's reputation is vilified, and hence we have to live up to the damages that is caused by this unfortunate behavior of many human beings. In various studies by the scientists of communication, they found that as information is passed from one person to another and then to another, it's changed and it's interpreted in a way in which the recipient sees things or likes to see things. So in the end, what we have is numerous changes to the actual facts of the matter, and it almost distorts the reality of what actually happened. But what this particular verse refers to is a fasiq, a troublemaker, who brings news that is intended to cause problems. Dr. Alidina, can you tell us more about the background of this verse and what is its particular context of revelation?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This ayah number 6 of Surah Hujurat is from a surah which was revealed in Medina. So you're talking about a state of the community where the Holy Prophet ﷺ has already migrated. There's a group of supporters, of believers, of loyalists who want to form a community based on the divine laws with a head of state. And obviously, given the human psychology, whereby you get news or information about certain events or happenings, which may be true, which may be untrue, and as a head of state or as a person in authority, a decision would have to be made based on the information provided. A decision whose consequences could be serious, could be long-lasting, could be quite comprehensive. Therefore, it's important to lay down principles of information collection, of information analysis, of information delivery in this situation. In this context, therefore, this ayah reflects a particular event that occurred during that time. So it's an Islamic state. Different tribes are now in the process of converting. One of the tribes that converted to Islam was the tribe of Bani Mustaliq. Having become Muslims, they were obliged to pay the taxes, zakat, to the state. And it is the duty of the state to send a tax collector. So the Holy Prophet ﷺ dispatches a person by the name of Walid bin Aqaba bin Abi Mu'ayt, to go and collect taxes from this tribe. When the tribe learns of a representative from the Prophet from Medina coming toward them, they go out to receive him. However, Walid misinterprets this reception, that the community member, the tribal members are coming out. And because it seems historically, incidentally, Walid converted to Islam in the last stages, in the 8th year of Hijrah, after the victory in Mecca, Fathul Mecca. So obviously he was involved in the battles that were raging between the Quraysh and the Prophet from the Badr 2nd year of Hijrah, or 3rd year of Hijrah, and then Khandaq, till the Sulh of Hudaybiyah. So apparently he misinterprets this group and party coming out to receive him as a party which is preparing to attack him. So he stops before even meeting them and rushes back to Medina to report to the Prophet that they are out there to come and attack, implying that they don't want to pay zakat. And not paying zakat to the Islamic State is dangerous. It's resistance, it's refusal to obey the laws, it's declaration of as if rebellion, illegitimacy of the government. The Prophet obviously is to take this information seriously.
Yes.
And therefore a decision is made that a group is sent to this tribe to control this rebellion. So on this occasion, this ayah is revealed. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. O those who believe, you've accepted that there's a God, you've accepted that this God has sent messengers and this is the last messenger, and you want to live your life according to the godly, divine laws which will ensure maximum prosperity for all. And therefore you need to be aware of the potential mistakes that can occur. One of them is in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in. Whenever a person brings information to you, not any person, a person who is an evildoer. Fasiq basically is a person who breaks the law, a sinner, a public, open sinner. An evildoer, he brings information to you. Don't be quick in receiving and accepting that information. فَتَبَيَّنُوا. Your duty is, you must check, you must verify, you must investigate, you must ascertain whether this information is true or not, because the source is not reliable.
Okay.
And then the ayah doesn't stop here. The ayah also gives the the consequences of not carrying out this necessary step of independent verification. أَن تُصِيبُوا قَوْمًا بِجَهَالَةٍ. What you would do is then blindly, unknowingly, acting foolishly without proper investigation, you take a decision, you take action against a community, and it turns out to be disastrous because the information was wrong. You will go and attack, thinking they are rebels, when in fact they were. The actual fact was they wanted to welcome the representative of the Prophet. فَتُصْبِحُوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلْتُمْ نَادِمِينَ. And then the end result was, after you discover the truth, you start regretting on the harm that you have inflicted based on the misinformation without investigation.
Now, the verse makes a particular reference to the fasiq being the troublemaker, as you had as you
Yes.
had mentioned.
Right.
Does that mean that when a person who is not a troublemaker comes to you with news or a report, we can just accept it?
Well, not necessarily. There are two elements here. Information that is collected by an individual of an event or a happening where you are absent or the authorities of the state are absent and where action is required. This information could be through two sources, a source which is reliable or a source which has got some evil motives. If the individual is known to have evil motives, definitely you must verify and check and ascertain and independently confirm the truth. But what if the source is reliable, he's pious, he's honest, he's trustworthy, he brings information to you. On the face of it, obviously, your first reaction will be to accept it, but you must also appreciate that he's a human being.
Sure.
And therefore he is prone to the same limitations or weaknesses any ordinary human being may have. Even a person with good intention, his perceptions, his observations may be biased, may be incomplete, maybe he saw the whole thing from one particular perspective, and therefore if a serious action has to be taken, definitely even that would merit further investigation. The more the informers, the more the observers, the more different sources of information, the safer and the wiser is the decision going to be made based on the information collected.
Okay, just before we take a break, just to further follow up on what you had said, what if the sources of information to attain the facts of a story or of a situation that has taken place, what if the sources are very few? What do you do in that case? Because you may find that majority of the people surrounding the story, let's say there was a break-in into a house, but all the neighborhood is so fearful of the overload of the society that they will not say anything truthful, and you find that you're left with very few sources, and they may be very hidden or silent because they're just in fear. But you want to get to the truth of who broke into my house. And what happens in this situation?
The version that I narrated for the reason of revelation of this ayah is the popular version reported by the majority of the scholars. There's a second version also reported by some scholars, and that is the incident refers not to the collection of zakat, it refers to a report about a sexual crime or a sexual misdemeanor between one of the wives of the Prophet and a relative. This is serious. So when the Prophet received that news, he summons Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he instructs him that take the sword, go and check out. If you observe a crime on the scene and it's happening, take action. So Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam asks, excuse me, you want me to act as a mere executor of your command, or do you want me to go and check, and on the spot, depending on the information and observations I make a decision accordingly? So the Prophet said, no, of course, you as a present witness on the scene will have new information that I, absent from the scene, may not have, and therefore you make your judgment and decision based on what you see. This instruction that I gave you covers one particular scenario, depending on the truth of the allegation that is being made. Ali alayhi salam proceeds and sees that there is a man with one of the wives of the Prophet, Maria Qibtiyya, her cousin, Jarih. And the moment Ali ibn Abi Talib announces his presence, the man is startled and begins to run. As he runs, he climbs a date palm tree and is trying to escape, but accidentally he falls. In that accident, it is revealed, and Imam Ali alayhi salam notices that he has no male organ, and therefore this allegation that, God forbid, the wife of the Prophet was having a clandestine private affair with another relative turns out to be a false allegation.
Okay.
And so he comes back to Imam Ali, to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and reports. And the Prophet thanks God that Alhamdulillahi alladhi yasrifu anna su'a ahlul bayt. We thank the Lord that He has kept evil away from us, the members of the ahlul bayt.
Okay.
This is an interesting version because it tells us a lot of the general principles that is required in information collection. So here you have a situation where something could go wrong or an allegation could be made about anyone, including the head of the state. And incidentally, this head of state has a private problem with one of his wives, yet the Qur'an considers it so important that it reveals an ayah about it. And number two, so the Holy Prophet, the problems he faces, how does he respond, what action does he take, who does he appoint, all these become a role model for us. Number three, notice that the Prophet is not quick in his response, immediately action should be taken on this allegation. Sure. No. Investigate. Number four, not anyone is sent for investigation. A very reliable, brave, intelligent person is chosen for this task. Number five, this investigator says, excuse me, what is the jurisdiction of my duty? You've given me a sword, yes, that means you expect me to take action. But what if the scenario turns out to be different from what has been reported to you? What are my options? Is there only one action I'm required to take? Or do I have to make a decision based on the observation? And the Prophet says, no, the present witness can receive information different from the absent witness. And number six, when Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam does arrive on the scene with authority, he threatens action. And number seven, we see that the suspect takes a certain action, and by accident the truth is revealed. But the scenario that you have painted is a situation where there could be witnesses, but they are fearful of speaking out. Well, again, the state, the Islamic State, or the Muslim community is required to be a well-bonded, well-connected community in such a way that, for example, their presence and their participation in the masjid as the center of the spiritual house of worship is required to be on a regular basis every day. The Holy Prophet's sunnah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was that if he did not see a particular Muslim brother attending for a couple of days, 3 days, he would inquire after him. If he is sick, it's reported to him he's sick, he would go and visit him. If he is traveling out of town, that's why he's absent, he would pray for him. Okay. We're all connected, we're all bonded. Anything goes wrong, we should know.
Sure, especially in today's world with all the mobile
Precisely.
connectivity.
So it's very unlikely for a problem to occur in a properly functioning Muslim society, and for people around there not to be able to report. Yes, exceptional circumstances do exist. There could be an isolated pocket. Yes, they're surrounded by a majority. They are not in a position of power.
Or there could also be a culture of being timid in the society, not wanting to speak. Because if you look into cultures around the world, you get those who are more vocal and expressive, and those who would just sit back and want the storm to pass and not have anything to do with it.
Right. Well, that's a bigger issue now. That's a weakness in the political awareness, a weakness in the social bonding, a weakness in the commitment to truth and justice. These things have to be worked on whereby the culture, the faith, the commitment is increased. But on in no circumstances, therefore, just because we don't have information, just because we have certain allegations, would that justify some serious action to be taken. The Islamic judicial system is such that in absence of evidence, a person is considered to be innocent. Yes, you would need to be careful about him if you have suspicion, but if nothing is proven, he is to be considered innocent.
Okay, Dr. Alidina, thank you. With that, we'll take a break just now and we'll be back in a few minutes. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome back to the show Reflections. We're discussing today verse number 6 of Surah Hujurat, which says, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyan. As we were discussing before we took a break, there's an approach to, according to this verse and its context and the background of its revelation and how the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, had to deal with a certain situation whereby a troublemaker came to him with the news about a certain tribe that wanted to come to Islam and pay the taxes, yet he had falsely reported to the Holy Prophet about them, and how that was dealt with by the Holy Prophet is a lesson to us as far as how we should deal with in any report by a troublemaker or any report in general. We commonly face in our daily lives the problem of gossip, of false reports being spread about our families, our businesses, ourselves, and in some cases our marriages as well. And this undoubtedly and inevitably leads to problems in our society. It's a burden that sits on us, unfortunately, and it stops our growth and it leads to various problems. What are the ways to counter this problem for any individual, any believer in our society? How can he or she deal with this problem and approach it in a way that we can, inshallah, eliminate it?
The allegation that I referred to, that God forbid one of the wives of the Prophet was having a private clandestine affair, that was a serious allegation. Unfortunately, what happened was, once the allegation was made, it began to spread, and the rumor spread so fast and so wide that the Qur'an considered it as a serious problem for the Muslim community, and therefore, using that as an example, certain principles were laid down of how to confront a situation where false rumors are being spread. This is discussed in detail in Surah Nur, chapter 24, verses 11 onwards.
Okay.
So the ayah says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ جَاءُوا بِالْإِفْكِ. There are those who come with a false allegation, a false report, an accusation. عُصْبَةٌ مِّنْكُمْ. They are not outsiders. Unfortunately, they happen to be a group of Muslims from amongst yourselves. لَا تَحْسَبُوهُ شَرًّا لَكُمْ. Don't consider this as something which is evil and something to be an affliction for you. No, look at it positively, in that it alerts you to the presence of some mischief mongers amongst you, and therefore to be extra careful. بَلْ هُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. In fact, there are some benefits in this event. Interesting, a problem arises and the Quran teaches you take a positive look at it.
Sure.
Don't ignore it. Be serious about it. Take wise, prudent action, but don't be negative about it. There's definitely something positive, something for you to be alert about, to grow as a community, to be able to identify the strengths and the weaknesses and the potential dangers from certain individuals in the community. لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مِّنْهُمْ مَكْتَسَبَ مِنَ الْإِثْمِ. For every individual involved in this receiving the rumor or spreading the rumor, everyone will be held responsible and accountable for the sin they've committed. You can't falsely accuse a person without evidence. That's a sin. And therefore they will be accountable. وَالَّذِي تَوَلَّى كِبْرَهُ مِنْهُمْ لَهُ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. And definitely the one amongst them who played the biggest role will get the greatest punishment. So there's a band, there's a clique, there's a group amongst you. They're all interconnected. They are very close to each other. They plan and they plot, and there's a mastermind, and then there are the workers, and they keep on spreading. They know who to go to, how to talk, and they know how it'll spread. The mastermind definitely will be punished the maximum.
Sure.
All of them are sinful, but the one who plays the bigger role is going to be punished the most.
But sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
What is the khair in this situation? As this verse mentions, that there's a khair there's a benefit there.
Well, like I pointed out, one potential khair is that don't be naive to think that all of these people who claim to be Muslims are true Muslims. Yes, we are to respect everyone who claims to be a Muslim, but if his behavior does not conform to the standards, then we need to take appropriate action. We do not therefore trust him with very sensitive responsibilities, authority, duties to be performed. For that you need a person whose record and whose competence is proven to be impeccable, and he's got a God-fearing character. So it alerts us to the potential danger that does exist in the community. It motivates us therefore to take careful action, prudent action as far as the allocation of posts and responsibilities is concerned. So the next ayah number 12, then educates the believers. What should have been your duty and responsibility once you heard the rumor? لَوْلَا إِذْ سَمِعْتُمُوهُ ظَنَّ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بِأَنفُسِهِمْ خَيْرًا. Why didn't the believing men and women, women are also involved in receiving and in transmitting the rumors. Why didn't you, men and women, when you did receive the rumor, think positively, give the benefit of doubt about the allegation that's untrue, can't be, it's not possible, she's a believer, he's a believer, couldn't be involved in this, no, it's not true, I'm sorry, I won't accept it till I have evidence. وَقَالُوا هَذَا إِفْكٌ مُبِينٌ. This is a clear false allegation that is being made. Sorry, I won't accept it, and sorry, I'm not going to share it with somebody else. Well, incidentally, the ayah says, why didn't you believing men and women think good about yourselves? He's my brother who's being accused. She's my sister who's being accused. We're part of the same body. How could one part of the body be challenged, be accused, and I don't feel concerned about it? I suddenly begin to look at this person as if we're not part of the same, we don't share, we don't feel for each other. Ayah number 13 then says, لَوْلَا جَاءُوا عَلَيْهِ بِأَرْبَعَةِ شُهَدَاء. Listen, when an allegation is made, and it's a serious allegation, why don't you ask for the evidence? And in this particular case, the evidence is very strict. 4 witnesses who should have seen the actual act being committed. فَإِذَا لَمْ يَأْتُوا بِالشُّهَدَاءِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ هُمُ الْكَاذِبُونَ. If they fail to produce the 4 necessary testimonies, then they're liars. So if you get 3 or 2 or 1, testifying, it's incomplete. And therefore it's a lie. It could have been true, but God in His wisdom says, for this particular act and allegation to be proven, this is the minimum standard required. That means this act was done so shamelessly and publicly and recklessly and defiantly that 4 God-fearing people could actually see it happening.
Right.
No, this requires serious actions, the highest penalty. If it's an act of adultery, execution. If it's an act of fornication, there's lashing.
Sure.
That's serious punishment. But the act is so serious also.
But that's under an Islamic system.
That's correct.
What would happen to people like most of the Muslims in the world live outside of an Islamic system? So what's the approach that they can use?
Right. So can we keep this question on hold? Let me finish the steps that are required from a believer.
Okay.
Then we can see which of those steps are actionable and practical in our situation, which are not. And is there any alternative? So 2 steps so far. Number 1 is give benefit of doubt. Number 2, ask for evidence before you accept the accusation. Number 3, I will skip ayah number 14 because ayah 14 says وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ لَمَسَّكُمْ فِي مَا أَفَضْتُمْ فِيهِ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. Had it not been for God's special grace and mercy on you, and had He allowed you to continue just to receive rumors and then spread it, and the way that you were doing it so recklessly, without any precaution, it would have definitely created a huge fitna, and then you would have deserved greater punishment. But it's God's mercy and grace that He warns you beforehand and He guides you. So step number 3 would be that we should thank God that we have been shown in His wisdom what is the best course of action under such circumstances. Step number 4, إِذْ تَلَقَّوْنَهُ بِأَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَتَقُولُونَ بِأَفْوَاهِكُمْ مَا لَيْسَ لَكُمْ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. The problem was, the moment somebody spoke, you accepted it. And you kept on spreading to others something about which you had no knowledge. So the emphasis here is, don't be such a passive, mindless recipient and transmitter. You have no knowledge. You can't produce the evidence. Tomorrow, if you are sued for libel, do you think you can defend yourself in the court of law that you made an accusation without evidence?
Sure.
تَحْسَبُونَهُ هَيِّنًا. You consider it light. Oh, is this piece of information, I'm sharing it. It's no ordinary piece of information. It's the reputation of an individual which is at stake. Oh, incidentally, the reputation of a believer is so important that God comes out in His defense. The reputation of a believer is so important. The Hadith says that it is as good as the reputation of the Kaaba, which is the most sacred house of worship we have. You consider it lightly, just passing information.
Sure.
No. وَهُوَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ عَظِيمٌ. But in God's eyes, this is serious. This is mighty error that you commit in playing around with somebody's reputation.
Absolutely, and it just makes sense because as a result of this, that individual goes through a lot of stress, self-doubt, a loss of self-esteem, and maybe also a loss of good relationships and trust because of just these few words, as you said, that people take lightly.
You know, there's a riwayah which says that الضرب باللسان أشد من الضرب بالسنان. A strike by the tongue is more painful and more damaging than a strike by a sword. You inflict pain and damage by the words that you speak. And the pain and the suffering in the mind and the soul of the victim is much greater than the pain and the suffering of a knife injury, for example.
Sure.
And therefore, if I can then extrapolate the parable, so let us say later on, this person, it is investigated and the person is declared innocent and is exonerated. But you know what? You have already inflicted the wound, and the wound has left a scar behind. And this man, wherever he goes, or this woman, that scar still remains. In people's minds, they will say, you know what? 5 years ago, no. 50 years ago, can I tell you something? 50 years ago, this man was accused of something. So the ayah says, you take it lightly, but in God's eyes, this is very serious. Step number 5, وَلَوْلَا إِذْ سَمِعْتُمُوهُ, ayah number 16. قُلْتُمْ مَا يَكُونُ لَنَا أَن نَتَكَلَّمَ بِهَذَا سُبْحَانَكَ هَذَا بُهْتَانٌ عَظِيمٌ. Why, when you heard the rumor, did you not respond by saying sorry? Glory be to God. God forbid. We will never speak such words. These are serious words. Until and unless it's proven, we shall not speak anything about it. This is a gross, great fabrication and lie. Notice 4 steps I mentioned, but most of them are: don't accept without evidence, don't speak without evidence, period. Because what's at stake is the reputation. Oh, incidentally, today it's his reputation. You open the door for this unverified information to be spread so easily, tomorrow you could be the target.
Sure.
The mischief mongers, they just look for targets and victims. And they're looking for these passive, innocent, blind people who will just accept and spread. Conclusion. يَعِذُكُمُ اللَّهُ, ayah number 17. Allah advises you, Allah admonishes you, Allah shows you the path. أَن تَعُودُوا لِمِثْلِهِ أَبَدًا. God guides you so that you should never ever repeat. Oh, definitely you need to repent, but repentance is not enough. You need to stop ever this action occurring again. In kuntum mu'minin, of course, if you're true believers, which means you are not a believer if you entertain doubts based on allegations and rumors about another believer without verification.
Well, that's just what I wanted to ask you. I mean, what's the corrective behavior to this? You know, you mentioned the word repent.
That's correct.
Now, what needs to be done once the damage has been caused by the troublemaker?
So obviously, everyone who is involved needs to repent for this action. Number 2, it's not only a personal, private apology to be made to the victim, but also a public apology, because there are members of the public who have been misinformed and they may not have the right information. Number 3, beyond that, obviously, reparations in the sense that damage repair, for restoration of the reputation of this hurt individual. Some societies require some monetary compensation for libel, but if it is deemed and proven that potentially this victim could have engaged in certain business transactions which he was denied because of this smear on him,
yes,
or if he could have attained a particular office or position in society and therefore a particular salary or a pay, and he was denied because of this smear campaign, then yes, he could claim, if it's reasonably proven that his chances were almost definite that he would have enjoyed those privileges, but now he's denied, then yes, he could claim compensation for that also. Monetary compensation.
Sure. I guess the best approach is just not to engage in this false reporting in the first place, then instead of having to repair the damages, because some of these damages, as you say, when you tell me these are the steps that needs to be taken, I think to myself, wow, that's enormous, because where do you start with the repair? You know, how do you can never fully give it justice, because the time has been lost, reputations have been lost, and to repair it is challenging in itself, and it requires faith as well to do that.
However, we shouldn't go to the extreme of becoming an ostrich who says, see no evil and hear no evil and speak no evil. If there is clearly an act of injustice or wrongdoing or a sin going on, and it is public, and a few people are observing it, it's the duty of those people to take action, to admonish, to advise, to urge that individual to stop. If everything fails and this sin continues to be committed, and then it becomes the duty of those individuals to speak to others, where a greater number of people can have greater effect in trying to stop this. It doesn't mean that therefore we have no right to speak about something which could be true.
Sure.
We have a duty, yes. But
Amr bil ma'ruf.
that's correct, yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll take another break and we'll be back with you shortly, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, welcome back to the show. We've been discussing verse number 6 of Surah Hujurat. It says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, in ja'akum fasikun binaba'in fatabayyanu. We've generally been discussing the context of the verse, the reason of its revelation, its significance to our individual lives and social lives. In the discussion we've had so far. But what I would like to do is to see how we can connect this verse to the world level, in that we have troublemakers in the world at a state level, at group level, at the corporate level as well, that are bringing to the people of the world reports in the form of news media, TV, radio, internet, that isn't true and is designed to cause friction within society. It's designed to cause a disunity amongst Muslims themselves, between the Sunni and the Shia, between Christians and Muslims, and between believers and non-believers. All kinds of separation is within this agenda. And this is generally coming from the big media houses of today, such as CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, and various others that are so popular and so present, you can say omnipresent, around the world, that we rely on most of our understanding of what's happening in the world through these agencies. Unfortunately, as conscious believers, we have come to see over our experiences in several decades, especially since the Iranian Revolution in 1979, that there are certain strong forces that are out there just to sway the masses against good values, against those countries that have good values. What are your thoughts on this? And how does this connect to the verse that we've been talking about?
If you recall, when I was giving the background of the revelation of this ayah, we said that the Prophet had established an Islamic state in Medina, and part of the state activities is to collect information, to analyze it, to classify it, to categorize, sift through it, find out that which is useful, that which is not useful, that which is a state secret, that which should be shared with others, how to share it with others, check, verify, ascertain, and then spread the news. This is also mentioned in Surah Nisa, chapter 4, ayah number 83, where Allah says that some of you believers tend to be naive and gullible, and you tend to spread sensitive information when it is not required. وَإِذَا جَاءَهُمْ أَمْرٌ مِّنَ الْأَمْنِ أَوِ الْخَوْفِ, when news information comes to them, something pertaining to security. أَوْ الْخَوْفِ, something which would frighten them. So maybe there's a victory on the war front, or there's a loss. أَذَاعُوا بِهِ, they come and just spread the information without checking first or without informing first the relevant authorities. وَلَوْ رُدُّوا إِلَى الرَّسُولِ, if they were to come and report to the Prophet, head of the state. وَإِلَى أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ, or those who have been vested with authority in the state, and therefore they know in leadership positions what is the best for the community. لَعَلِمَهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنْبِطُونَهُ مِنْهُمْ, those who are careful, conscientious, analytical people amongst them, they will be able to receive the information, ascertain, classify, and then take the necessary action. So you need to have relevant authorities in the state to be able to handle this sort of information. وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ, and had it not been for the guidance and the grace and the mercy of God towards you, you would have been swayed with this information to extremes. لَاتَّبَعْتُمُ الشَّيْطَانَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا, you would have tended to fall into the trap of shaitan. This is not news from outside sources. This is news from within the Muslim state, from some who have been, let's say, on the war front, who know some secrets that are going on out there, and they come and share it without passing through the proper channels. These are innocent believers. In Surah Munafiqun, the mention is made of those who deliberately plan to plant information to misguide others. وَإِذَا رَأَيْتَهُمْ, Surah Munafiqun, chapter 63, ayah 4. وَإِذَا رَأَيْتَهُمْ تُعْجِبُكَ أَجْسَامُهُم, and Prophet, if you look at them, these munafiqeen, or incidentally, the munafiqeen become the inner state Muslims who carry out the agenda of the foreign enemy. When you see them, oh, they're dressed smartly, they're very attractive, very appealing. وَإِذَا رَأَيْتَهُمْ تُعْجِبُكَ أَجْسَامُهُم وَإِن يَقُولُوا تَسْمَعْ لِقَوْلِهِمْ, and when they speak, they sound so convincing, and their arguments, they're so rhetorical, and you're impressed. Who is impressed? An ordinary believer? No, you, the Prophet. Oh, they're well trained. They know how to speak. They know what to highlight. They know which part of the information to hide. They know what conclusion. They know how exactly to impress the mind. Forget about ordinary people, even the leader, how to impress him. كأنهم خشب مسندة هم العدو. They are the enemies. Be careful. They're acting as agents for outside enemies. فاحذرهم. Be on guard. Be alert. Take precaution. So this is regarding the inner projection of an outward enemy, and we are asked to be careful. So what about the sources who may not necessarily have the best interests of Muslims and Islam in their heart?
Sure.
Or do have a clear declared agenda to be against Islam and the Muslims, unfortunately. So the same rule will apply. Be careful, be on guard, be alert.
Well, what can we do as a Muslim society, whether or not you're in an Islamic state, on a systematic level, to build, you can say, this kind of fortress against this waves of reports or culture that are coming in? What can we do in any community around the world to either, I guess, provide alternatives or raise the consciousness of the society. Well, and further to that, I mean, what can we do for the non-Muslim? Because it's our duty as well to raise their consciousness about what's really happening in the world.
In Surah Ali Imran, chapter 3, ayah number 101, it's in two places, 104 and 110. Allah says that, ayah 104, وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. Let there be amongst you a group of people who should invite others towards that which is goodness. يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. Whatever is ma'ruf, they preach, they advocate, they support, they make sure that the society moves in that direction. And whatever is evil and wrong and false, they oppose, they resist, they persuade others, they dissuade others not to commit that. They try to eliminate and remove or reduce, if possible, evil from society. So definitely we would need a group of people who are dedicated to the process of scanning, investigating, collecting information from all possible sources, and then
creating a report of its own.
Yes, have a system whereby you have a method of independent verification wherever it's possible, and then presenting this information to those obviously who may not have the time or the resources or the talents. Well, we're living in a world where all these activities have become quite professional, and you have to be trained to be able to do that. But the average believer needs to be critical in his approach to any news item that he receives. Source verification, independent corroboration of the report. But for those who are professionals or trained in this field, they have an extra responsibility to be able to scan the different news agencies and the sources, to be able to check and counter-check, and possibly to have a network of contacts, of sources on the ground in different parts of the world. I mean, how do the news agencies collect information?
Sure.
They have their journalists all over. Well, as a Muslim ummah,
you need photographers all around, you need cameramen, you need journalists, people on their phones.
Right, now
Twitter.
with the social media and mobile phone and Twitter and Facebook, and it's becoming easier. So at one level, perhaps it's not difficult to be in contact with Muslim brothers and sisters in other parts of the world, build up a network of people who are reliable, conscientious, God-fearing people, who can collect information, and then you can use that to corroborate or to neutralize or to refute the false reporting or information that's being circulated by the other media.
And that's so easy nowadays, because you can go on to the websites of all of these news media organizations, and below each article is an opportunity for anyone to post their view on on that report. And what I've seen more and more, especially in the situation of the Middle East, which the West is presenting and portraying a completely different picture of, that there are people around the world who, and from all over, who do see things in a way that is closer to what's the reality. And they come out there and they put their postings on these websites. For example, on The Economist, which is mainly viewed by people from the West, and it's viewed as a reliable source of information on society, politics, and economy. And I've seen on their postings that essentially correct the information that is being given in these reports, which are in the news by the reporter, that is very biased. And I saw that as being very empowering to anyone, as you say, to neutralize and to to eliminate or rectify these news. Yeah.
See, essentially, the fundamental reality has to be recognized that anyone who has got an ulterior motive or who's got an evil motive, if he's going to fabricate something or he's going to exaggerate something or he's going to hide something and spread misinformation or disinformation, all of this can only be possible if you have a passive, blind viewer, receiver, and transmitter. But if you have a person who is conscious, who's aware, who's alert, and who's critical, then they will not be effective. This media agency or a suspect source or a person with an agenda, they will not succeed if we have raised the consciousness of the viewers and the believers, inshallah.
Yes. And inshallah we will see that. Dr. Alidina, thank you very much for a wonderful discussion.
Wonderful.
And dear viewers, we thank you for joining us once again, and we hope to see you soon on this show. Inshallah, if you do have any questions, feel free to email ibntv@raha.com with any questions, comments, or criticisms that may help us in this show and future shows, or in regards to the topic that we've been discussing today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.